I mean, can you be a little more specific? Why would they stand him in a
Well,
certain...
see, okay, so this is obviously some type of ritual, and I don't know why they're doing it. I just know that I'm a scholar of religion. I know a ritual when I see one.
All right, I'm going to be honest. I don't really know how to start this video, Vetters, because this is a strange one. Apparently, NASA, right, uses religious rituals for their launches into space. And the reason that they do it may be because they're trying to appease what they call their sponsors. Who are the sponsors? And they point up, right? It's like they're kind of implying aliens, right? That they've had contact with aliens and that they do these particular rituals to appease them, right? This sounds crazy, right? And when you start to think about the names that they use on their patches for their missions, right? Apollo, this sort of thing. There's definitely a lot of ancient, Roman, and even Greek mythology infused into the NASA missions. And according to Diana Pasulka, right, who is a religious studies professor, I'm sure I described that wrong, but she is an expert on religious studies, right, for sure. Professor, wrote American Cosmic, covered her many times on the channel here. And the story she's about to tell you right here it's just bonkers, right? So let's watch the clip and then come back on the other side.
And they would also have specific rituals that they would do, sometimes
Like what?
involving U.S. presidents. They would position the presidents at a certain point where astronomical events, would happen. And this, so
Like
Tyler had...
like the president of the United States?
Yes, the president of the United States. They didn't know what they were doing. They were just being positioned there. So, they're like, stand here, Mr. Obama or President Obama. And he would stand there with his wife and look this direction. It was part of the whole thing. And there were photos. He has photos of all of that.
I mean, can you be a little more specific? Why would they stand him in a
Well,
certain...
see, okay, so this is obviously some type of ritual. And I don't know why they're doing it. I just know that I'm a scholar of religion. I know a ritual when I see one. He didn't even understand it. So I noticed that they were using Latin, and I noticed it wasn't medieval Latin. I was like, this is a particular form of Latin. It seems like it's Roman theology. So, they're using the images of Roman gods. And I would ask him, I said, why are you using the images of Roman gods? Why are you putting them on your mission patches and also utilizing Latin phrases from that time period? I mean, you're sending it up into space. Who up in space is going to read Latin? And his answer was, our sponsors. So, I mean, that's what he said. And so he also had all
Which Roman gods, do you know?
Yeah, so there would be obviously Apollo, right? So all the missions, if you think of all the missions, they're all those gods and goddesses.
Okay, so what are we talking about here, right? Again, NASA space launches, she's purporting, are using, right? Why are they using these Latin phrases, Roman gods, right? Greek influence, right? There's all this influence, right, through mythology for these launches, and they're doing it for their sponsors, right? And what they mean by that is aliens. Okay, that's it, right? Now, when you know the history of Diana Pasulka and Tim Taylor, right, who was featured in her book as Tyler D., who is a NASA mission controller. In fact, some say the head, right? They call him the dragon. He's heavily involved with getting downloads from aliens and interacting with aliens. In fact, he purports to report to someone called the Hammer, right? Who Chris Angel has deemed to be an angel, right? That's who the Hammer is, an angel. So I don't know what's going on, right? I don't know. Are these just like simple, rituals, meaning just like a quick prayer, right, before something? Or is this more involved? They have them stand in particular places, right, for a particular ritual. Again, now she's evoking President Obama, and that these presidents who are involved in this stuff don't even know what they're doing. They don't even know why they're being told to stand there. They're just, they're used to that, so they stand there. But it's all part of a plan. Right? Do you think President Obama would be cool with that if he knew that he's being a part of some sort of occult ritual, right, before these NASA missions, right? That's kind of insane, right? And what other presidents are involved? And if, is that cool? What is going on? I don't know. And why would they want that to happen, these aliens? You know what I mean? So weird request. Hey, make sure you do these little rituals and this stuff before you shoot up into space. That almost sounds like, I don't know. I can't wrap my head around this, right? What's happening with this, because it just doesn't make sense. What is the point, right? I don't get it. I don't get it. And is NASA, again, this is not a new theory, right? Essentially that NASA is involved in some sort of, they have these rituals that they do, right? Now, could it be innocuous and there's nothing wrong with it? It's really actually not that bad when you see it. I don't know, right? How much does it affect or not affect the missions? Is it just sort of superstition and they do it because they've always done it, right? Who started this, right? I think we could be reading more into it than what there is, to be honest with you. And to be honest, Sean Ryan in this interview gives a great example of maybe it's just for fun. They just did it because they liked it and it was cool, right? It stood for something they believed in, but not necessarily goes past that, right? Into meaning more than what it is, right? It just was cool, right? They just thought, oh, that's something neat to use, these old Latin phrases and these sort of things, right? Just sounds cooler and more sophisticated, if you will. But there's really no other meaning behind it, right? Take a listen.
Do you have any ideas of where this stemmed from?
It could, okay, so I do. It's just a theory though. So I could be completely wrong, but it seems to me that there might be an element within our government that maintains this theological tradition, this Roman theology. Could it be a form of Freemasonry? It could be. I don't know. But I just know that that's what it looks like.
Interesting. Why would they carry on these traditions?
I think at some level there's belief in those traditions. I don't think that they would do it just because. Do you?
I don't know. I mean, could have played devil's advocate here a little bit, but I mean, I was a SEAL. I was the agency. We had developed our own traditions. And for example, in one of my platoons, we had a patch and it had a Spartan helmet on it. And we underneath the Spartan helmet, we put a saying that the Spartans used to say that said, "Come home with your shield or on it." We put that in Greek underneath. And so, somebody could probably look at that and go, why do these Americans have Greek writing under a Spartan helmet? Because Spartans were all badass warriors that we aspire to be. And so we kind of, adopted some of their traditions, sayings, whatever you want to call it. It's really more of a morality type, like a morale type thing, to keep us going than really anything else.
So that's what I think, because if you asked anybody like Tyler, me asking him those questions, why are you doing this? He did not know. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, and I even wonder about the use, I mean, I understand the Spartans were badass warriors, right? Mm-hmm. So of course. But I mean, the very specific positioning of the presidents and, the attention to detail mm-hmm. seemed pretty, I honestly, that's all I have for that. I don't know.
And look, the idea is interesting, and what Diana is saying based on her knowledge and experience, which is quite extensive, right? She's saying there may be something more to it just because of the way they're positioned, right? It's not like just a cool phrase. they're actually positioning presidents and people in certain, a certain way for this launch to happen and saying certain things, right? I mean, it's almost witchcrafty, in a lot of ways, right? It's like the old image of a big pot with a witch and, doing the big spoon and, I forget what that thing's called with all the soup, the magic soup, or like Beastmaster. Have you ever seen that movie? You know what I mean? Like, just like, I don't know what I imagine. Like they got a crystal ball, like something's happening, right? It's just like Bohemian Grove. I don't know what's happening, but it's quite unusual. It's like Eyes Wide Shut sort of stuff, right? Is that what's happening? I mean, that is a lot more involved than just like Sean Ryan's example of, well, we put a cool, phrase on a patch. That's definitely a lot different than what Diana is describing, but that doesn't mean that it's, as complicated as she's describing. It could be much more simple and quite innocent, to be honest with you. But again, if you mix in, the positioning of the presidents, the ritualistic style, the old phrases, them mentioning the sponsors, right, aliens, that, there's maybe a little bit more there. I don't know. It's like I would need to see one in person, right? I think a lot of us would, and kind of get an idea from that. Is it private? Do they all wear like hoods and stuff? That would be, they got candles lit. But it doesn't sound it. But it also sounds interesting and mysterious the way they're not telling the other people why they're putting them in those positions. So they're having people involved in the ritual who have no idea that they're being involved in the ritual. And I would say that's a problem. If President Obama or other presidents who have been asked to do that don't know about that, that's a problem. I would want to know. Don't put me in a ritual without telling me. Hello. That doesn't seem like that would end well, right? In a lot of ways. That should be a personal decision. But either way, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Obama knew. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is NASA involved in some sort of a cult, where they are, appeasing the aliens, performing these rituals for all their launches and whatever else, and who else knows what's going on? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. We'll see you guys in the next video. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.